Book adaptations can really leave fans feeling alienated, particularly if they don't live up to the reader's expectations. BBC's adaptation of the series left fans in a tizzy, to say the least. Yes, Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman's on-screen chemistry were perfect, and James Moriarty was portrayed to perfection by Andrew Scott. Unfortunately, some characters weren't used all that well, one of whom was Irene Adler. Let's find out how different her portrayal was from the books. First up, the woman on TV. If you've read Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes stories, you'll know that Irene Adler only showed up in one book, titled A Scandal in Bohemia. But boy, did she make an impression, not only on the readers, but on none other than the famous detective as well. Also known as The Woman, she appeared in the BBC TV series' second season, in just one episode, A Scandal in Belgravia. At the time of its release, the episode received positive reviews, but the one thing that didn't sit well with fans was the show's portrayal of the iconic character. The episode begins with glimpses of the character in suggestive attire. Gradually, Sherlock learns about her, and we find out that she's basically a dominatrix. Then, when he creates a ruse to meet Adler, she appears before him in the nude. What the showrunners believed was an empowering moment only seemed unnecessary, both for the character and for the plot. The show doesn't stop there, and constantly portrays her as the woman who knows exactly what men want. She plays men like a fiddle and gets what she wants. Next up, how did Adler compare to her book counterpart? There are countless differences between the character written by Doyle and the one written by Moffat. Irene is introduced as an opera singer who has a romantic involvement with the future king of Bohemia. A beautiful woman with the mind of the most resolute of men keeps the relationship secret, until the day the engagement to the daughter of the king of Scandinavia is announced. The king makes multiple attempts to retrieve a photo of their affair, worried that she'll use the compromising image to blackmail him. Every effort of his fails, and that's when he reaches out to Sherlock. Holmes learns about her and finds out where the photo is kept, but on the day he comes to collect it, he sees that Adler is gone. All she had left behind was a letter and a photo of herself, explaining that she knew what he was up to and had left town with the photo he needed. In fact, she had no need to threaten the king with it, because she was living happily with her husband. Having said that, Adler is mentioned in a few other books, and is always recalled as the woman who bested the greatest detective. Moving on, why was there so much controversy surrounding BBC's Irene? Moffat took a lot of inspiration from Doyle's works when he brought Irene Adler to life. The opera singer was rewritten as a dominatrix, which makes sense. If you didn't know, being a singer was as scandalous back then as it was being a dominatrix today. At the same time, the rest of her portrayal is pretty different from those in the books. As we've mentioned, Irene went on her own way once her romance with the prince ended. She didn't sit around moping, but was smart enough to ward off every man who was sent to get the photo from her. Not only does she beat them, but also outsmarts Sherlock Holmes. She takes a leaf out of the detective's own book when she puts on a disguise to learn more about his motives. In fact, Irene carefully scopes out the situation and comes out on top. Of course, Sherlock respects her. But Irene doesn't just develop feelings for him, she falls in love, and that's how she meets her downfall. Let's learn more about what Moffat had to say about her depiction. Well, many fans were quick to call out the drastic changes in the script. They couldn't even begin to understand how the writers could consider Irene as an acceptable version of the original. Unlike the woman in the books, she didn't need Sherlock's help at any moment. The BBC version repeatedly needs him to get her out of tough spots. However, Moffat disagrees. In fact, he had a hard time understanding just how the book depicted her as a feminist. He claimed that when Irene decides to move to another house with her husband, it can't really be considered a victory. What he fails to understand is that regardless of how she wins, she was never at the mercy of either Sherlock or Moriarty, unlike Irene in the show, who needs one's help to get away from the other. Moving on, how does it all end for Irene Adler in Sherlock? As the episode continues, it turns out that Irene was in really deep trouble. It was bad enough that she figured it was important to fake her death. Not only did she have compromising images of members of the royal family, but she also had confidential information stolen from the Ministry of Defense, and she was able to give that to Moriarty once Sherlock decoded the data. After things seem to be going south for the detective, he reveals a crucial bit of information. It turns out Irene Adler was in love with him, and this mistake would cost her everything. dying. Months later, Watson informs him that she had been killed. In a surprising turn of events, we see that Irene's death was nothing but a hoax. In fact, she was saved in the final moments leading to her death by none other than Holmes. All in all, Irene Adler's fate is kind of similar to the one in the books, which also involves her escape at the end. But that's where these similarities end. The version in the show is far from the cunning, witty, and intelligent woman we know from the books, and leaves a lot to be desired. Moving on to other related news. Firstly, Benedict had a hand in Doctor Strange's script. Earlier this year, Benedict Cumberbatch starred in his second solo Marvel movie, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Strange returned to the spotlight to deal with his latest foe, none other than the hero-turned-villain, Scarlet Witch. Fans had last seen him in Spider-Man No Way Home, where he was easily stumped by the teen trio. In the second installment, he returned, much stronger than his last appearance, but the most exciting part about it was that Sam Raimi would be coming to direct it. Not only has he directed some of our favorite Spider-Man movies, but is also a legend when it comes to directing horror flicks too. And finally, he was bringing his expertise to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Raimi took full advantage of the creative freedom that he was offered and succeeded in directing a significantly scarier Marvel movie than we'd ever seen before. Now, we've just found out that he wasn't the only one who contributed to making the movie as terrifying as it turned out to be. Speaking to Prestige Online, Cumberbatch revealed that he offered his own 2 cents to the script as well. For instance, he wanted to really amp up Strange's face-off against Sinister Strange. His ideas were so good that Raimi let him rewrite those scenes just like he had envisioned them, which clearly worked out for the best. Moving on, Moffat explains how the scariest Doctor Who villain came about. If you've watched Doctor Who, chances are you've come across the Weeping Angels. Yeah, those creepy gray statues that only move when you're not looking at them. Anyone who's watched them will agree they're the most terrifying creatures, period. While speaking about his latest drama, Inside Man, Stephen Moffat offered fans an inside look into how the angels came to life. He wrote an email to the producer, Julie Gardner, all the way back in 2006. In it, he describes the angels just as we know them to be. He describes them as motionless and weather-beaten statues with folded wings, always seen with their faces buried in their hands. It's only when you look away that they drop and sneak up on their victim. What he really wanted to work on was their appearance, because he didn't want them to look like people, but real statues. Let us tell you, Doctor Who brought the vision to life just like his email described it. Finally, turns out Benedict has influenced another superhero franchise. Sure, Benedict has a major role to play in the next phase of the Marvel franchise, but now Pierce Brosnan has revealed that the actor played a key role in his casting as Dr. Fate. Brosnan accepted the role of Dr. Fate, a key member of the Justice Society of America, because he loves Doctor Strange. He explained that he and his sons are comic book fans, and the similarities between the two characters were undeniable. Both are highly respected mystical superheroes, and Cumberbatch's version of Strange pushed him to accept Fate. Fans will be glad to see the ex-Bond take to the screen to play Fate. If anything, his excitement alone should be a source of comfort to die-hard DC lovers. Who else do you want playing your favorite superhero if not one who respects the character, right? That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Irene Adler's portrayal in BBC's Sherlock? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.